Welcome to the Sport Life YouTube channel. My name is Kevin Ward. Let's get right into the video. So, in this video, it's kind of my first basketball video in honor of the NBA Finals. Knicks just won Game 1. This is kind of a Gregg Popovich appreciation post. For most of my life, that's been the dominant head coach in the NBA. I was born in 1993. I'm not going to say I really watched the NBA from 93 to 2000. My younger years, obviously you had, Kobe's Lakers and that sort of thing. And then when I really started following basketball, it's towards the latter half of Pop's dominant run, and then Eric Spoelstra, with the Miami Heat, that's kind of where I really got locked in. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. More 2008, 2007, Paul Pierce and the Big Three, and I really started tuning in. But anyway, this is kind of a Gregg Popovich appreciation post. The more I think about it, the more I dig in. I don't know if everyone agrees with this take. I think he is the greatest coach in NBA history. I love hearing stories about Pop. And, people associate, his intensity, his incredible ability to hold players accountable, no matter how great they are, no matter who they are. But I think the stories I love to hear about him as the person, he's got some incredible stories. I literally just listened to one on DeMar DeRozan and his father dying, and him spending 2 hours in a room crying with him, just being there, being a human. And then if you guys ever get a chance, please watch the video about Pop talking about Tim Duncan's dad. And Tim Duncan's dad told Pop, I think it's when Gregg was, when they drafted Tim Duncan, I forget when the time frame was, but he basically told Pop, I'm going to hold you responsible to, make sure Tim Duncan remains the man who he is, as something super deep. I'm sorry, got the wrong frame shot here. Pro tip, make sure you check your background settings so it's the right way. But and I'm not a pro. But again, back to Gregg, like that, and he when he's talking about that in the interview, he's crying. You could tell that means something to him. And Pop's not one for for the media to do stuff for the media, but that hit his soul. It really matters to him. I appreciate guys like that. You guys are pretty authentic. Guys, I talk a lot about that. He's so authentic in how he presents himself and who he is, and he owns it. To him as the basketball coach, he didn't always have, he had superstar players, but he didn't just recruit and sign superstar free agents, right? He was incredible in developing and identifying, players and making them the best versions of who they could be, and putting them in a system that made the whole team successful in many different ways, right? So Tim Duncan, number 1 overall pick, okay, that one, I think he would have been successful with anybody. Now, I think he reached his maximum potential with Pop, right? But other guys Tony Parker was no guarantee to be who he was. Manu Ginobili was an absolute unknown, right? And then he becomes what he becomes. Just this incredible Swiss Army knife and such an unorthodox but unique player. And, he's had a bunch of great players throughout the years. And, Kawhi was taken outside the top 10. He turned him into a Hall of Fame player. Not turned him into, because Kawhi deserves the credit for the work he's put in and his talent and his skill set. But Pop helped get him there, right? I believe he was huge in his development early on. He's a Hall of Fame player, right? There's tons of guys that he's turned into highly productive players. Like Boris Diaw was good with the Suns, but he was this really unique Swiss Army knife for that team that won the 2014 NBA championship. Danny Green, perfect role guy for what they needed, and he provided such a great value to them. And there's guys I can go on and on about, that Pop was big with, right? But sorry about that. When I really watched Pop's teams, especially in the early 2010s, right? They reminded me of the Warriors a lot. If you watch how they played against Miami, their ball movement, their off-ball cutting and action and movement towards the basket, and how the system revolved and how the ball just never stuck on a guy. It just didn't. Ball just moved like it's some of the most beautiful basketball you could ever see. And you look on that Spurs team, right? The one that won the championship, like at the time, because Tim Duncan's older in that part of his career. Kawhi was young and not this dominant 25-point-a-game scorer guy yet. They didn't have a superstar on that team. Now, you had 4 Hall of Famers, but not at points in their career that you would call them, their peaks or their high points of their career. Maybe Tony Parker, you could probably give him that. But the way they bought into his system and how they, functioned in it and operated it was just as high level as it gets, right? Guys understood their roles, they bought in, and they functioned at a high level. And Miami's big 3, they dominated them in 2014. They dominated. They beat them in 5 games. Are you kidding me? LeBron James at the peak of his powers? I think he got hurt in that series, so he probably wasn't 100%, but they beat him in 5 games is more than impressive. And he's had some great wins. Obviously his first run in 99 with a rookie Tim Duncan, they win that. 2003 they win that. 2005 they beat the Pistons in an epic 7-game series. They sweep LeBron in 07, right? And, really for Pop's whole tenure, they were super competitive team, and they were always considered title contenders for the most part. As we go on and we watch sports, as time passes, we're going to realize how incredible it was, how long Pop was able to stay consistently dominant in the NBA. It's unbelievable. It really is. And you see him on the sidelines, he held everybody accountable. He didn't fear anybody. And not that coaches fear other players, but there's definitely a power structure, right? Like, there's certain coaches don't approach certain players the same way, right? Like, I'm just throwing out examples, but your superstar player doesn't always probably get coached as hard by your coach because the superstar player's got more power. He just does, right? Pop didn't care. Now, Pop earned that respect throughout his career, and it was evident. It was absolutely evident. And you see players now, like, he is so revered. LeBron, Steph, like, you can go down the list of guys who just, absolutely see Gregg Popovich in the highest regard. And he is impressive. He really is. Like, even this finals run, the Spurs make it back to the finals. Just look at his influence in this, right? Mike Brown was his assistant head coach from 2000 to 2003. Mitch Johnson was his assistant coach. They're in the finals together. You're hearing stories about how during this Spurs run, like, Gregg has had his handprints on this. Like, he's given his influence during this run to help them adjust and do things. Even now in the modern day NBA, guy is unbelievably impressive. Oh my God. He's timeless. He's proven he's timeless. He's adjusted to the game. Steve Kerr was his, and played for him. I think Steve Kerr was an assistant coach on his staff too, right? And you can see the influence. Like you look at that Spurs team that won in 2014, and you look at how their system works and how they played the game. Watch the Warriors. Like if you actually study both teams, the Spurs kind of were that first version of that system to early inspire the Warriors. I truly believe that. Just the way the ball never moves, they cut. They like Boris Diaw felt like a version of Draymond Green in that system, and like players just didn't hold the ball a whole lot, and the way they would move and cut and all their actions, all their screen actions, like those Warriors teams, I think were heavily influenced by the way the Spurs plays early on. And everyone talks about how incredible that Warriors system is, and like Steph and Clay's talents, and Draymond and Durant, like their talents accentuated that system and made it as glorious as it was. But I think Gregg's the original architect of how that system is supposed to be executed. And it's just deeply impressive. He's won in so many different eras. Like, think about it this way. I don't know, and maybe Red Auerbach's the only one, as I'm really thinking about it. Nah, well, I guess how much you want to say Phil Jackson did it, because 2010, early 2000s, 90s. So I guess you could say he did it. But Pop won in the 90s. He won in the 2000s, and I get it. 99's right at the edge. I get it. He won in the 2000s, right? And he won in the 2010s. Like, that is hard. Like, you have to evolve with the way the style of game is played. And in 3 different decades, he found a way to be a champion as the game evolved throughout time. That is so hard. You see teams fall off or teeter off because the game evolves and they don't evolve with it, right? And as time went on, like he was so good at his job. I think he was so obsessed with how to win, and he held the standard in the Spurs organization. He held that standard for so long, and his expectations and how they operated as a franchise. He held that standard so high for so long that they were able to evolve and get better with the league and stay so relevant and so dominant throughout his tenure. And it truly is impressive. I know I'm kind of fanboying over this guy. In the history of sports, he might be my favorite coach of all time. He really might be. And I don't know if we're going to see a run like the run he had. He is just as high level as it gets. Not only as a coach, but from what it seems like as a person. The respect he garners from some of the greatest players in the history of the sport is truly unprecedented. I mean, I have nothing but great things to say about Gregg Popovich, and I miss him in the sport. Obviously, his influence is still prevalent because look at the Spurs. They're back in the finals. His influence is still there. He's still in the building. He's still giving his 2 cents. And when he speaks, you better just shut the hell up and listen. There's nothing more valuable than what that guy's going to have to say when he's in a room. Yeah, so like I said, I just utmost respect for Gregg. The consistency he was able to dominate in his tenure is absolutely impressive. And the way he evolved the game, because if you think about it, right, like the Warriors chain, like people want to credit the Warriors, with them changing basketball and how the modern game is played, right? Like, you shoot threes, you can play a small ball lineup, and that's going to win you ball games. You know, the center now can stretch and shoot the three ball, right? And it changed the game. I think it all started with Pop and the system he really developed, right? I think that's what is the beginning of the modern NBA system now. I truly believe that. Like, your center and your center can operate as this point, you know, and be a distribution to all these athletic wings and guards moving around the court. Like, you look at Wembanyama, they like to do the same thing. He passes a lot for a center. Same thing with the Knicks, Karl Anthony Towns. He passes a lot. He operates in that way. And again, you look at the two head coaches, Mike Brown and Mitch Johnson, come from Pop, right? So again, and Steve Kerr, same thing. Draymond Green operates as that point center, right? And he came from the Pop system, right? I mean, you could say he came from the this is embarrassing. The from the Bulls, right? From Phil Jackson. So if you want to say he came from that tree, that's fine too. But the modern day NBA system of teams that are successful, like, their centers can pass. Their centers can bring the ball up the court. They can operate as the beginning part of their offensive system going into effect. And a lot of that credit you got to give to Gregg Popovich. You really do. A lot of people like to always go back to, you know, his interviews and his press conferences. They're timeless. They're absolutely timeless. I watch them all the time. But yeah, I just wanted to give an appreciation to Gregg Popovich. This guy is just, you know, I truly miss watching him in today's NBA. But his influence is still relevant in today's NBA. Like, you look at his coaching tree and all the coaches that have came from him and had success in the NBA, it's truly impressive. Just go back, other than Mitch Johnson, Steve Kerr, and Mike Brown, look at his tree. Look at all the guys that have went on to coach. I think Avery Johnson coached the Dallas Mavericks to a 60-win season. There was an Atlanta Hawks head coach Mike Budenholzer. I think he won. Did he win an NBA championship with the Bucks? I think he did. I could be wrong. He came from the Spurs. There you go. Like, this guy's influence is so spread out throughout the league. It just boggles my mind. It's truly remarkable. All right, so that's it for this video. You know, just want to give Gregg Popovich a huge shout out. You are truly missed in the game, and you're incredible, and you're an incredible inspiration for, I think, how coaches how they should be. That guy really does care about the person first. He does. Hit like and subscribe. Hope you guys have a great day.